It was a single sentence that seemed to rearrange the whole kitchen. I remember the time 11:02 p.m., the little clock on the microwave casting a tired light. I sat at the table with my reading glasses slipping down my nose, tape still clinging to my fingertips from the tiny souvenir bags I'd just finished tying. Each one held a silly keychain I had ordered in a hurry. A small thing that read "Ocean Love" because grandchildren should have something to laugh at later. The refrigerator hummed in that steady, ordinary way it always did, and for a moment that ordinary sound felt unbearably loud. I read the message again, as if a second reading might soften the words. It didn't. The teeth the message glowed like an accusation on my phone. "We're keeping it family only. You won't be joining us." One was flat and efficient, no softness, no regret, just a line that turned 3 years of careful planning into something suddenly pointless. 2 nights before, I had been mapping out the trip like a prayer: which photos to bring, where to place my husband's picture on the table, what little rituals would make the nights gentle. I had called the villa, checked bed arrangements, asked about wheelchair access, and spent nights tutoring online so I could tuck away more dollars. Every small sacrifice had been folded into a single hope to make one bright, lasting memory for everyone. Now the bright plan read like an itemized list where my name belonged only underpaid by. The words on the screen felt less like an explanation and more like an edit me removed, replaced by the phrase, "family only." I felt a strange, low shame settle in me, not the hot burst of anger I half expected, but a heavy, astonished hurt at being quietly erased. I set the phone face down on the maple table. I didn't reply. I didn't call. I reached for the small hand-labeled pouch meant for my youngest grandson, smoothed the fabric between my fingers, and sat very still, listening to the refrigerator, feeling the room hold its breath with me. I was never the kind of woman who kept track of what I gave and what I received. Life didn't seem like an exchange to MIT, felt more like a weaving. You pulled one thread, you tied it with another, and slowly a family came together, piece by piece. When my husband was alive, our house was always filled with noise. He had a voice that rolled through the rooms like warm thunder. He'd tell the kids bedtime stories, not from books but from his own imagination: pirates in the backyard, fairies hiding in the shed, a talking dog who never listened. I used to stand by the door, arms folded, pretending to scold him for keeping them up too late. But the truth is, I loved those nights. They were stitched into the fabric of what we built. After he passed, the house changed. The thunder was gone, and silence pressed itself into corners. The children were grown by then, busy, scattered. I told myself it was fine, that it was natural, but I also told myself I would hold the family together. Somehow, that became my quiet mission. Every holiday, I set the table for too many people, just in case. I saved a chair for anyone who might decide to come at the last minute. Birthdays, graduations, anniversaries, I never missed them. Sometimes the invitations came late. Sometimes they didn't come at all, but I would show up anyway, bearing a cake or a card, pretending I hadn't noticed. I sold my wedding jewelry once to help my son through a rough patch. I didn't tell him until years later. It wasn't the gold I cared about. It was that he could breathe a little easier. Another time, I skipped buying a new coat one winter so I could help my daughter with her tuition. I told her I had plenty of warm sweaters, and laughed when she scolded me for not taking care of myself. She never knew how cold I was that year. There's a photograph on my mantle, one of those stiff-posed studio portraits from the early days. My husband's arm is draped around me, the kids squirming on little stools, their hair stubborn against combs. Every time I dust that frame, I whisper to it like a prayer. We did it. We made something worth holding. And hold it. I did. Every sacrifice, every little denial of myself, felt like proof of love. Love that would echo forward, binding us even when life grew complicated. That's why I planned the trip. That's why I counted coins late at night. Why I taught myself to use those endless video platforms just to earn extra money. Why I clipped coupons and skipped hair appointments and let my shoes wear thin. Because memories matter. Because family matters. When I began to plan the vacation, it wasn't about me. It was never about me. It was about them, my children, my grandchildren, running along a beach together, laughing in the kind of sunlight that makes time feel forgiving. I imagined us gathered around a big wooden table, my husband's photo in the center, his absence acknowledged but softened by our togetherness. I thought the sacrifices had built me a seat at that table, but now, staring at the message on my phone, I wondered if maybe the seat had never been there at all, that signs didn't arrive all at once, They came quietly, the way a room darkens at sunset, so slowly you hardly notice until the light is gone. It began with phone calls. I used to hear from them every few days, sometimes for advice about recipes, sometimes just for company during a long drive. But gradually, the phone grew silent. At first I told myself it was just life, busy jobs, children, errands. I left cheerful voicemails, just checking in. Sweetheart, no rush. Call me when you can. More often than not, the calls went unanswered. Then came the holidays. Thanksgiving had always been my season. I roasted turkeys so big they hardly fit in the oven, made pies in flavors everyone liked, even invented a silly game we played after dinner. But one year, the invitation came late. Very late. By the time I arrived, dishes were already cleared, laughter already shared. They had eaten without me, plates stacked in the sink. My granddaughter met me at the door, her face sweet but puzzled, as if she hadn't expected me at all. I told myself it was a misunderstanding. I laughed, hugged them, and helped with the dishes. But the sting followed me home, settling in the quiet house like a shadow that refused to leave. Other little moments piled up. A family photo posted online where I wasn't present. Group messages I was somehow left out of. Stories shared between them that I heard secondhand. Each one small enough to excuse, but together they drew a pattern too sharp to ignore. I remember one particular evening. My daughter called, hurried and distracted. She talked about a birthday party for her son, my grandson, that weekend. I waited for the invitation, the natural, expected words, but they didn't come. She ended the call with, "Anyway, I'll send you some pictures." When the photos arrived, I studied them the way you study a painting in a museum, searching for details: balloons, cake, children in paper hats, my grandson blowing out candles while everyone leaned in, faces glowing in the light, everyone but me. That night, I sat in my bedroom with the small box of keepsakes I keep under my bed: ticket stubs from old family outings, birthday cards with shaky handwriting, seashells collected from trips when the children were young. I held a seashell to my ear, hearing not the ocean but a hollow emptiness. I told myself not to take it personally. They're busy. You're older now. Don't be a burden. But another voice whispered back, or maybe you've already been pushed out. Even when I offered to host, there was hesitation. It's a long drive, Mom. The kids get restless. Maybe next time. Next time never came. And yet, despite the growing distance, I never stopped trying. I mailed little packages, cookies, books, sweaters I knitted in the quiet hours. I wrote cards with cheerful notes. Thinking of you. Hope you're smiling today. Sometimes there was no reply at all. It is a peculiar pain to love so loudly and be met with silence. It makes you question yourself in ways you never imagined. Did I do something wrong? Did I ask for too much? Am I too much? On some nights, I would sit in the kitchen with the lights off, staring out the window. The street lamps glowed, cars passed, lives moved. I tried to picture my family in their houses, sitting together, laughing, eating. I tried to imagine myself there, but the image kept flickering, like a candle about to die. The exclusion wasn't dramatic. It wasn't shouted. It was quiet, polite, almost invisible, like erasing a name from a list with a gentle stroke of a pencil. But it was constant, and that constancy cut deeper than any argument ever could. And still, I kept hoping. I clung to hope like a fragile thread, telling myself that the vacation I planned would change everything, that 1 week together could stitch the fabric back, could make me visible again. The night I received that message, "We're keeping it family only. You won't be joining us." Something shifted inside me. At first, I just sat there, frozen, the phone heavy in my palm like a stone. But as the hours passed, stillness gave way to thought, and thought, in its own quiet way, gave rise to possibility. I walked through the house in the dark, barefoot on the cool tiles, trailing my hand along the walls. Everywhere I looked, I saw proof of my sacrifices. The kitchen table where I had once balanced checkbooks, carefully dividing bills so my children could have shoes and lessons. The living room couch, sagging in the middle from years of their weight. The hallway lined with their childhood photos, each one a story of who I had been to them. I stood before those photos a long time. Their young faces smiled back at me, unaware of the years ahead, unaware of this moment. I whispered to them, "Did I raise you for this? Did I give everything only to be erased?" My reflection in the glass looked back, tired but not broken. I knew something.